In tonight's Top Gear, BMW's brand new 3 Series Compact, 75 years of Maserati, and the king of the roadsters buying a used MX-5.
In the early 90s, size wasn't everything. Big was bad. LPs became CDs. PCs became palm tops. And you could pick up a mobile without pulling a muscle. BMW went compact crazy too, not to save space, but to make their products more accessible. They invented the Mini-Me 3 Series and called it the Compact. It was a risky business to launch an affordable Beamer without devaluing the brand. But the risk was taken and the car managed to entice future high flyers into the BMW family. And now that the original owners have moved on to bigger Beamers, there's a new Compact to lure the next batch. BMW's hoping the Compact will give hot hatches a sophisticated run for their money. They've taken the current 3 Series saloon as a starting block and sharpened things up a lot. Now, one of the biggest advantages this car has over many of its rivals is the fact that it's rear-wheel drive. So, cheeky tail-end moments are never too far away. There's bags of front-end grip and the steering is so alive that there's absolutely no chance of you getting bored behind the wheel. With an all-new body, the designers had a blank canvas on which to create something wild, innovative and exciting. They didn't. The exterior isn't ugly, but it's far from award-winning. Inside, you can paint almost any picture you fancy, but only when you've raided the options bag. And boy, is it a big one. There are 15 colours and 3 textures on the list, so you can have anything from brushed aluminium to an electric blue dash with rubberised seats. Kinky. Any misgivings about its graceless exterior evaporate once you fire up. Look, I'm going to come clean with you and let you know that there is an all-new 1.8-litre Valvetronic engine available that maximises fuel without pinching the power, and it probably will dominate compact sales. But when the sun's shining and you've got roads like these, you really need a tiger in your tank. Its 0 to 60 time of 7.1 seconds is enough to leave many rivals scrabbling in its tyre smoke. This 325i version purrs like a kitten and is a much more engaging car to drive than its Mercedes-Benz arch-enemy, the Sports Coupe. BMW wanted to make this compact hot, and they've done a grand job. Right, back to the sensible stuff. You will be able to get 2 adults in the back. The boot is a decent size, and for a little more cash, you can have this practically packaged parcel shelf. Prices haven't been announced yet, but this compact should be around £22,000. The smaller engine model is expected to be nearer 17 grand, and that should secure fresh buyers for the BM badge. It's a better buy than a bigger, softer 3 Series saloon, particularly if your taste is for a firm, sporty drive. Whichever compact you opt for, you will have one class act on your hands. OK, it may not be as pretty as some of its rivals, so if you're the superficial type, I suggest you look elsewhere. But those who don't judge a book by its cover will realise that under this body is one fine, refined driver's car.
Maserati. Name me a more evocative sports car than that. Go on, I dare you. Apart from Ferrari. All right, you got me there. Actually, it's funny you should say Ferrari. Because Ferrari has had control of Maserati for almost 4 years now. And you'd have to say they've done a pretty fair job of turning the company around. Last year, for example, they sold 362 cars in the UK. Not a huge number, but a very big deal indeed for a company that was struggling to shift even a handful of cars back in 1998. And how many did they sell in 1997? None. In fact, they didn't sell a single car in 1996 either. But here's the reason for Maserati's recent reversal of fortune, the 3200 GT. Following a rather wobbly launch a couple of years ago, Ferrari has skillfully developed this car into the wonderful Gran Turismo it nearly was all along. I'd love to take it for a blast right now, but I'm not going to, because there's more pressing business to attend to. Birthday business. Maserati has been around for 75 turbulent years, and as we take a look back, there are one or two things I think you should know about. Like run for the hills if you see this, the Quattroporte, the car they couldn't give away. This car summed up the miserable 90s for Maserati almost as thoroughly as the bi-turbo summed up the 80s. But somehow this car gave Maserati their biggest year ever. Over 6,000 cars sold worldwide in 1983. So, 20 years of hurt so far. But delve back into the 1970s and the picture gets a lot prettier. Well, sort of. A huge oil crisis brought Maserati and every other luxury car maker to their knees. But what did I care? I was just a car-obsessed kid and supercars ruled. Well, you could hardly blame me, could you? What with cars like this, Vignali designed Indy to dream about, as well as having the looks of a 70s supermodel, it sure could do a lot of damage in a game of top trumps. Maserati did the aristocratic front-engine GT thing better than anyone, except perhaps Aston Martin. But really, if it was a challenge you were after, then your sports car had to be mid-engined. And they didn't come any hairier than the Bora, Maserati's very own woolly mammoth. Now lust is of course a sin, which means that right now you are sitting at home watching me actively sinning. But the thing is, I really want this car. The Bora is a proper early 70s supercar, powered by a slavering, gurgling V8 beast engine. There it is, located just behind me here. Its top speed is reputed to be 168 miles per hour. But even if I was allowed to try for that, I wouldn't dream of doing so because, quite frankly, this car is a monster. It's pretty intimidating inside too, to be honest. It's cramped in here. The seats don't move much, but the pedals do. Bizarre. And if I threw all the gauges and dials up in the air and just let them drop, well, they'd land more logically than they have done on this dashboard. But who cares? I mean, just look at it. It's gorgeous. And just listen to it. It's a truly biblical experience. And so to the 60s, and this, the Maserati Ghibli SS. Look, if anyone builds a prettier sports car than this, I'll eat my priceless collection of top trumps. Now this is probably the best road car that Maserati has ever made. It outsold its more famous, more glamorous rivals like the Ferrari Daytona and the Lamborghini Miura. And underneath that bonnet is a 4.9-litre V8 engine pumping out 330 brake horsepower. It feels more like a Sunseeker yacht than a car. You come to a corner and you turn the steering wheel and really it becomes an act of blind faith. If I was to use this as my international Gran Turismo and head off down to the south of France, I'd have 4 arms the size of tree trunks by the time I got there. It's 15 foot long, there's only room for 2 people in it, but back then there was no finer way to travel. Of course, at only 10 miles per gallon, it drank petrol like it was going out of fashion, which it subsequently did. Right then, moving on. That's lovely, that car. I've got to get... No. Rewinding further. Throughout the 1960s, Maserati produced a huge variety of road cars, including this, the immortal Mistral, the first in a long line to be named after a wind. And then there was this. Its awesomely elegant and aristocratic predecessor, the Sebring GTI. Now, coincidentally, this is the original British road test vehicle, and I have proof. Look, there it is, in a 1963 copy of Autocar. Which brings us right back to year zero, as far as serious Maserati road car production is concerned. 1957, the year the 3500 GT made its debut. So what exactly had they been up to until that point then? Motor racing, that's what. And rather good they were at it too. Maserati was a motor racing legend. It would take me all day to do them justice, but here's the gist. 500 outright wins, 23 championship titles, 32 Formula GP wins, and a 2-times winner of the Indianapolis 500, the only Italian company ever to win it. They remain to this day one of the world's most successful racing car constructors. Maserati's 75 years has taken the company down a longer and windier road than most. And when Alfieri, Ernesto and Bindo Maserati built their first car back in 1926, they couldn't possibly have known where or on what their lovely Trident badge would end up. But I think they would have approved, don't you? Do I get to drive it now then? Coming up on Top Gear. Maximum fun, minimum outlay. Buying a used MX-5. Power to the people. Getting the most grunt for your money. But first, the Top Gear verdict.
This is the Audi A4 Multitronic, where normal cogs and gears have been replaced by a couple of cones, connected by a belt which moves up and down to provide the optimum ratio. According to Audi, it brings together all the advantages of manual and automatic gearboxes, whilst at the same time avoiding the drawbacks of both. We'll see. The advantage of a manual is being able to use the gear you want when you want it, which this certainly can't do because it hasn't got any gears at all. Instead, it just puts the engine in the rev band that best suits the way you're driving. 2,000 RPM when you're just cruising along, 5,000 RPM straight away when you want to overtake. All very clever. And much more efficient than a normal automatic, because the 0 to 60 and fuel economy figures are practically the same as the manual version. Now, I know the design is hardly imaginative, but it is authentically Audi. It's not as brash as a Beamer, nor as mature as a Merc. It's just, well, quietly confident. The A4 is full of airbags and has a virtually idiot-proof traction control system. Plus, NCAP have just awarded it an impressive 4 stars out of 5, meaning this is an extremely safe place to have an accident. As you'd expect, the build quality is impeccable. You feel as if Audi have used 2 screws where everyone else uses 1. Inside, the cabin feels precisely engineered and fits perfectly, while the driving position is one of the best around. The Multitronic transmission is a £1,450 option, which puts the price of this basic 2-litre just over the £20,000 mark, which, if you can't bear to change gear for yourself, is a pretty competitive proposition. Especially when you consider that the equivalent BMW 3 Series costs about the same but is less powerful, whilst an automatic 2-litre Volvo S60, which is a lot quicker, is a grand more. So, the Top Gear verdict on the Multitronic version of the Audi A4, the future of automatics, 9 out of 10.
In Japan, you can buy used pants in a tin. Nice work if you can get it, and a pretty good way of demonstrating the abyss that lies between the UK and our Eastern friends who try so hard to emulate us. You only have to think of all those mad golfers in love with Scotland with their diamond pattern jumpers and the Beatle haircuts to realise they don't quite get it. Except for the one time in history when they did. In fact, they did such a good job at copying the West, they didn't just come up with something that was better than anything we had to offer. It was groundbreaking.
The sports car the world had been waiting for, the MX-5.
Used pants are okay, but a much better second-hand purchase is one of these little roadsters. Small, sharp, sophisticated. It means us from the modern world can enjoy the thrill of the 60s without ending up in the hard shoulder. A Japanese Lotus Elan, it looked the part, felt the part, and best of all, it didn't fall apart. And we loved them. In fact, we rated them so much that a cheap MX-5 used to be about as common as a kamikaze veteran. But if you couldn't afford a dealer car, you could always buy a grey import direct from Japan. Same car, different name, the Unos. And now imports have helped residual values slide, and it's time to cash in. 5 grand gets a decent one, and you can add about 500 quid for a UK car. But the Unos comes with electric windows, power steering and air conditioning. Just don't ask for a service history. So take your pick. More car for less money, but without the paperwork, or go for what's safe and pay for the goodies. To be honest, it was much more of a gamble a few years ago, when Mazda dealers wouldn't touch the Unos and insurance was a problem. But now it's a different story. There are specialist insurers and Mazda garages are much happier to service them. If you're worried your Unos might have been thrashed by some ninja driving, or you're not even sure of the mileage, you can get it checked out by your MX-5 boffin from an independent specialist. Won't cost the earth and it'll give you peace of mind. They can check for things like faulty ECUs or a missing catalytic converter, things that you or I are never ever going to find. Engine in the front, power to the back. Now that's civilised behaviour. And you just have to love the Japanese. They've made it authentically slow as well. There are 2 1.6s and a 1.8, none of which are very quick, so just choose them on terms of insurance and how much kit they've got. The Japanese celebrate one of the highest life expectancies in the world by sparking up as many fags as they can, and chances are they've done it in your car. So take a look around for cigarette burns and a nice layer of tar everywhere. When it comes to UK cars, demand a full service history. But once again, the rank amateur can turn detective and save yourself a few pennies. Like electric windows, it may not sound a lot, but if the motors are slowing, that means you're going to have to buy a new one, and it's going to cost. Finally, avoid body kits and tarted up alloy wheels. One thing this car doesn't need is a makeover. The MX-5 is a very deserved motoring legend, and now it's a very affordable one. And let's face it, it's a lot more sensible than raw fish, and a lot more tempting than used pants.
Still to come on Top Gear. Everyone's got to have a hobby. The strange world of the petrol can man. And more power to your elbow. Yes, you really can get more for less.
Exhibition mania has seen visitors in their hundreds of thousands queuing for hours to see shows, like Tutankhamun, Pompeii and the Chinese exhibitions.
Every time some fancy foreign treasures roll up, the whole nation seems to ring in sick. Anybody would think we've got nothing of our own worth camping out for. But we can still show Tutankhamun a thing or two.
Because Mike here has built his own museum in his back garden in which he's housed the most bizarre and arguably the most pointless collection we've come across in many a moon.
Yes, it's not cars, it's not even bits of cars. Instead, Mike has built a shrine, the world's biggest, to his lifelong passion, the, petrol can.
There's over 230 different cans here now.
And nobody else comes close on that one, as far as you know?
Possibly within 100 cans.
So presumably all these cans with all these different names, Nico, Maple, Bowleys, were all from the old days when there were loads and loads of little companies, little garages selling their own petrol.
Small independent companies. Each county would probably have 30, 40 different companies in their own county.
So what's UD?
UD is United Dairies.
What, the milk people?
Yep, still going today. They done their own can.
God, I hope they didn't get them mixed up.
But don't think Mike's life revolves just around petrol cans. No, he has much wider interests like petrol badges, oil cans, even petrol brochures. Whoa!
God, Mike, these are exquisite. What are they, sort of kids' toys? Or...
No, these are all giveaways from the 20s and 30s.
A perfume bottle made like a petrol can. What, you sort of filled up with petrol and you got these instead of a Bobby Moore coin collection? I don't believe this. This is a gramophone record.
Yeah, it is a record, and it actually plays, and it was done to advertise standard cars from the 30s. Have a go with that one, Andy. That's really nice.
What's this one?
If you flick that,
Yeah.
Bluebird going through the water.
Oh, wow.
Inevitably, there's a long-suffering wife. Mike's missus remembers well the expensive second honeymoon holiday she booked.
It was all a surprise, didn't know anything about it, kept it all going. And then on the, I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday, he come home and said, I've heard about a can. He's all excited and he's going mad. And I said, oh yeah, but. He said, no, I've got to go. And in the end, I had to tell him about this dinner and everything. And he said, forget it. He said, I can see you anytime. He said, but I can't get this can again. So off he went. So
Where did he go?
Scotland.
He went to Scotland to buy a can?
Yeah, and left me high and dry.
Do you love cans?
Oh, I absolutely adore them. I must admit, the old can collecting it's got a little bit over the top, but I just absolutely love them. And everything else comes second place to can collecting.
Everything else?
Everything.
Powered, horsepower. Power. I just love it. But big BHP costs you big bucks. So what car provides you with the most power for your pound? Well, this does. The 284 horsepower Chevrolet Camaro Z28 Coupe. Anything else with this sort of grunt will cost you over 30 grand, while this can be yours for under 23. And just listen to this. OK, it's left-hand drive, but it'll get you to 60 in just 5.3 seconds. It flattens your back into the seat under acceleration, but it's all a bit too born in the USA for me. Great in a straight line, but a real blancmange when it comes to the corners. There must be something else that'll give me the same bangs per buck. Well, how about turning to one of our great British specialist sports car builders and, for the same money, have something like this. This version has a 4.8-litre Rover V8 shoehorned into the front, pumping out 305 horsepower. You can build one yourself for around 15 grand, but ready-made versions like this cost 24. You don't get many luxuries for your money, though. The doors are either off or on, and a funny-shaped hood goes up as a waterproofing gesture. But you'll soon forget all that when you experience its performance. Weighing just 750 kilos, it'll reach 60 in just 3.9 seconds, assuming you can find a way of getting the tyres to stick to the tarmac.
Another problem with this big powerful torque engine is if you change down too early, it locks up the rears.
And an awkward pedal layout stops you heel and toeing to prevent it happening. The Datsun is a big handful of fun on a racetrack, but obviously that isn't the only place for it.
The chassis actually seems better suited to the public roads. It takes all the bumps and ripples in its stride. The only trouble is, I wish I'd left the door on, because at anything over 30 miles an hour, the wind blows you to pieces. And you need the sunglasses to stop yourself being blinded by stones flying off the front wheel. Unfortunately, after about 5 minutes, you've had enough fun. I'm cold, tired, and deafened. The honeymoon is definitely over. I'm sorry, I don't want my power a la USA, and I don't want it al fresco. So, what can I do? I need something with a bit more breeding, a finer pedigree, a touch more class and comfort, but I can't afford it. Unless I go second-hand and just look what I can buy for the same sort of money. And each one of these mouth-watering machines has around 300 horsepower. So, what will it be for me? Well, this 350 horsepower Aston is mightily impressive. It may be 27 years old, but it still sounds magical. But if you want something a bit more modern, how about this 1990 Ferrari 348? 24 grand, and it's a Ferrari. If you want something just a bit more sensible, how about this 3-year-old 326 horsepower Toyota Supra? A 9-year-old supercar, Honda's NSX, a Mercedes SL500. Then there's TVR's 340 horsepower Chimera. But the one that catches my eye is this 1993 Porsche 928 GTS. The GTS was the last in a great line of 928s, a cavernous coupe that is half hatchback, half supercar, with a V8 in the front producing 350 horsepower. With Porsche's renowned build quality, the 82,000 miles on the clock have hardly run it in, and it feels as good as new. True, the ride isn't the smoothest, with its stiff suspension and fat tyres. But the 928 is a brilliant all-rounder and great fun to drive. I'm happy now.
Next week, a special edition of the programme. It's the Top Gear JD Power Customer Satisfaction Survey. Remember, this is when you tell us what it's like to live with the cars you buy.
When it did get recovered to the dealership, they were more bothered about who was paying for the recovery costs than the car problems itself.
I am a coach driver. I drive in England and abroad, and when I do get home, to get into my 75 is a sheer delight.
We had a complete brake failure. We went in for a service where they forgot to do the service, and we had a life of it like that until they replaced it for us.
This is my second S-Type Jaguar. No problems whatsoever. No problems whatsoever. Thoroughly enjoy it. Magic.
I wouldn't get another one, not a chance. I'm selling it now. Do you want to buy it?
So, if you want to know how your motor matched up and the identity of this year's top car, don't miss the Top Gear JD Power Special next Thursday at 8:30.